The UK has begun detaining migrants for deportation to Rwanda after the Rishi Sunak government passed the Rwanda migrant deportation legislation. Now, this legislation has been met with outrage from the United Nations as well as rights groups, but Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made it clear that he will not step back.
No foreign court will stop us from getting flights off. Rwanda is ready too, and I'd like to thank the government of Rwanda for their work in strengthening their asylum system, passing legislation and setting up a new appeals tribunal.
Remember, the Rwanda bill aims to stop illegal migration from northern France. Undocumented asylum seekers will be sent to Rwanda, where their asylum claims will be examined. And if it's approved, it will allow them to stay in the East African country. Rishi Sunak, when he was chosen as the Tory leader and UK's Prime Minister, had promised to what he called stop the boats. Now, the bill is expected to receive royal assent this week, which is basically a formality. And Rishi Sunak has said he expects flights to depart within 10 to 12 weeks, with focus now on getting flights to Rwanda off the ground. In 2018, people fleeing war and poverty in Africa and West Asia, remember, started arriving in small boats in UK, oftentimes in extremely dangerous and unhygienic conditions. More than 6,000 have arrived in Britain already this year, a rise of around a quarter on the same period last year. The worst incident, in fact, came in November 2021 when 27 migrants lost their lives when their boat capsized. And such similar incidents have been seen every year. Rwanda, meanwhile, has said that it was pleased to see the bill passed and was looking forward to welcoming those relocated to Rwanda. However, UN agency heads and rights groups have warned that the bill threatens the rule of law and sets a perilous precedent globally. Even King Charles, in fact, has called the legislation appalling. So what does it mean for UK, for the entire Europe, which is dealing with illegal immigration, and how does it impact the world, and will the world follow suit? Let's talk about this. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Captain Alok Bansal. He's the Director, India Foundation. Also, Khushbu Jain, lawyer, will be joining us. We'll also be joined by Dr. Swasti Rao, Associate Fellow at IDSA. Captain Bansal, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening.
First of all, your first thoughts on this Rwanda bill. It's created a lot of controversy. It's one big bone of contention in the UK, has had its own moments of political wranglings and all of that. But finally, Rishi Sunak has managed to get this bill passed. What do you make of it?
See, firstly, it is a first step against illegal migration. It actually secludes migrants, take them away from UK, Europe to Rwanda. It's something which Australians had done earlier. They had also isolated migrants in a separate island close to Indonesia, I think Christmas Island or something. But there are issues. Why Rwanda? Is it because it's a poor country which Britain will pay to compensate and put them here? Because please understand, Rwanda is the most densely populated country in entire Africa. It is the 5th most densely populated country of the world. And it has a history of ethnic violence. So how has it been chosen that why Rwanda? I think that is where the issue is, that I think it is a country which probably was in need of economic support. And I think Britain has managed to buy this seclusion. Now, whether it is right or wrong, there are issues which are involved with it because the people who are coming will be taken very far off into absolutely an alien environment. But from the point of view of UK, I think it is a firm step. It should be taken because illegal migrants cannot be allowed in any country, because illegal migrants are a source of crime, terrorism, a lot of other issues, and also strains the limited infrastructure and resources of that country. So I think it's a first step, I think, at this stage to pass a value
Which is what the argument has been for those who support the bill, Captain Bansal. But Khushbu Jain is on the broadcast with us. Khushbu, UN agency heads, human rights groups, they've all argued the fact that this is a violation of human rights and this bill shouldn't have been passed.
See, when you say it's a violation of human rights, you will have to see across that they are not every country has an aspect where they have to make policies and they will have to understand aspects or cater to the aspects of illegal migration. Because illegal migration results into an aspect where there are certain criminal elements who want illegal migrants to come and help them out in terrorist activities, or it increases to certain other level. But when it comes to human rights or when it comes to others, the other aspect of it comes is every country has to provide for an asylum, and that's something which cannot be taken away. So here, what I can understand or one can look into is they are not taking away the rights of asylum, because they are asking that once you provide and the policy, you're able to convince for the asylum, the conditions which are there for the asylum, that you're seeking asylum on these conditions, hence you are eligible to get asylum in certain country. That's where he's providing that I'm going to provide you and you can be in a certain country at a certain place. So the whole idea is not to pick and choose that which country I should go and have get an illegal migration to that country, but the aspect that there are certain issues in the area that you're living in, and for that purpose you are seeking asylum in some other country because there's a threat to your life, ethnicity, or it can be something else. That's why you're seeking asylum in some other country. Now, if that another country can be any other country, should not be a question that can be raised. One. The second aspect, that in case what it appears, I have not read the policy at a length, but what appears from the statements is it's not just that he's just giving away the asylum, but the policy also talks about that in case the asylum is provided, they will return back to UK, and from there they would be sent back to places where they have come from. So actually not burdening the other country, and it's an arrangement between the two countries. So whether it is against the human rights, no, because every country has to have look into those areas, and this will in a way restrict the activities done by a lot of criminal agencies and people who want to bring in people from other countries and involve them because they are illegal migrants. They enter into a lot of criminal activities in those different countries. So this, in a way, is a policy that is trying to safeguarding their own country, and at the same time making sure that the people who are seeking asylum get that protection which they're seeking for.
Capt. Bansal, this basically lends itself to a larger concern that European countries and now even America is talking about, that of illegal migration. And a lot of these leaders are actually facing domestic pressure back home, and that's why the kind of actions and statements that we see coming out of these countries. But how do you see this really, wider problem of illegal migration? And like both of you said, that giving rise to a lot of other problems, the ripple effects of that being felt by the local population of the country?
See, as I said, legal migration is primarily, most of it is for economic reasons. In some cases, it is for political reasons. Illegal migration takes place from those countries which are impoverished to those countries where there are opportunities for employment and sustenance. In some cases, people just want to get out of those countries where political climate makes it impossible to live. Countries like Afghanistan or war-torn countries like Libya, Iraq, Syria, and they want to go to places of relative safety. But invariably what happens is when you have large migrations of this sort and people come without any documentation, without anything, and they are at the fringes of the society, their indoctrination by various terrorist groups becomes easier. Also, for sustenance, they often indulge into criminal acts. And we have seen that wherever you have large numbers of illegal migrants, they invariably delve into the criminal activities and are an easy prey for terrorist organizations. We have seen that in the case of Rohingyas, where many of them have been recruited by transnational global terrorist organizations. And now, in the case of refugees from Syria, Afghanistan, etc., some of them have also been used in Europe to indulge and carry out acts of terror.
Can I also ask you, Khushbu Jain, at this point that, perhaps a lot of these European Union countries are responsible themselves for the kind of situation that they are facing right now. For instance, the case of Germany, where Chancellor Merkel had famously said, we can do this when dealing with the migrants and when welcoming outsiders into her own country. Perhaps that time they needed more hands to contribute to the economy. They sort of, balance it out with their local population. But now it's just a burden that they feel they cannot handle and they cannot deal with.
See that these are two separate aspects. One, where the country wants to have more people in their own country so that the local population is not suffice, or population in certain country is going very low or minuscule and they need more population in that inhabitants in that area. But in a way, yes, I mean, I in a way agree with you that you create an issue and one side, when you like it, you can continue, you don't like it. But again, see, it would be very unfair for me or you to talk about, because it's a country's policy, and every country, every state head has to make arrangements to secure its own citizen and have a policy which can secure its border and also make an environment which is healthy for its own citizen. And the first thing they have to look into is the priority should be their citizen and citizens' right. Now, if in that there are certain rules and regulations of policy that has to be bought into, I think it is in the interest of their own citizen, and that's what we elect the government for. I would not be absolutely be able to answer the direct question which you're asking, because this has more to do with questioning what they're policing. Because I would want to put it across that if you're taking away asylum aspect, that's where human rights. That's, yes, one I can look into. But even if you're picking and choosing, you're creating a policy in favor of your country, that's an absolute country's prerogative to decide and to formulate those kind of policies in their own favor.
Captain Bansal, last question to you. In the Indian context and in the Asian context, the larger Asian context, how do you see this really moving forward? How should one deal with it if and when it does face this kind of a situation and a challenge?
See, there are two issues. One is of humanitarian angle. When people, persecuted minority, persecuted people from any country are migrating, we need to provide them shelter because you wouldn't want them to be exterminated. But at the second place, we need to understand that very often these groups become susceptible to crime and terror, and they become easy prey for terrorist organizations and criminal gangs. So consequently, we need to have a system whereby these people are localized, kept in camps. HRC is notified, they are actually accounted for, documented, and kept there. And UN provides them sustenance. They are not allowed to move around and mingle with the rest of the population, so that their mixing with the population is prevented. And this is very important. And this actually brings me to the previous question where you had said about Germany. We need to understand that it's not only purely economical or national interests alone which have actually forced countries to accept refugees. Sometimes it's moral and ethical issues as well. Like in the case of Germany, Angela Merkel, I think, accepted refugees because she thought it was ethically incorrect to prevent those people who are actually trying to escape persecution and threat to their lives. So I think sometimes it is ethical and moral questions also which governs the nation's policies, and especially in this case, because you wouldn't want those people to be exterminated, especially those who are escaping political persecution and political turmoil in countries where conflict prone.
And I think, just to wrap this up and conclude this discussion, it also basically, it also is affected by the state of the economy. And I feel that post-COVID, this has been being encouraged across the world, where governments are under pressure to actually tell people and illegal migrants to go back somewhere else, instead of creating that pressure and burden on their own economies, which are grappling post-COVID. But we'll leave it there. Khushbu Jain and Captain Bansal, thank you very much to both of you for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your perspective on this controversial bill that the UK government has passed, the Rwanda legislation. Thank you very much.